Okay, today, fellers, we've got to rebuild the back brakes on this 48 Dodge. Unfortunately, there's nothing in there. This is the puller. I don't know if you can see that. This is the puller we got to use to get it off the spindle, but it wasn't even pressed on there, so that's a good thing that we didn't try and move this car too far, because that would have definitely been a bad thing. What I'm going to do now is needle scale all this rust and crap off of here. I've already washed this down with brake cleaner, try and knock the asbestos down and keep it out of my lungs. And I'm going to be using a respirator as well. So let's get to it. Okay, now that we've tickled this backing plate for about a half hour with the needle scaler, you can see the result. I don't know what that stuff is on there, but I'm telling you what, I've tried to sandblast that on a couple other backing plates and drums, and it doesn't come off. So, it's easier to needle scale it first. Let's head to the sandblaster. Okay, so we've got the backing plate all cleaned up, sandblasted it, and you can see that it's pretty pitted. This is not functionally a problem. You've got the reinforcement plate here, but it just looks kind of ugly because this is sitting in the water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this USC all metal, and you can actually powder coat this too. But this stuff's really expensive. It's about $42 a bottle, or can, or whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some of that in these pits and try and fill it in, make it look a little better.
These pits fill
And Uni's helping us again here. So that's what we're going to do. I'll bring you back when I've got some of that done. And of course, we're going to do some on the inside. I'm not going to get too crazy with this, but being that there's a hole through it down here, I don't know if you guys could see it on the sandblast video, but there is.
It's right there.
Yeah, I've got enough fingers in the shot now. But there is a hole right there. You can see when I put my finger through there, it changes. So I just would rather have that taken care of, make it look a little better. Okay, that damn camera is having some sort of issue today. SD card errors, keeps turning off. I don't know what's going on. So where we were at is we're going to paint this stinking thing, and I'm going to just use a brush. So, giving you a close-up on here, let's get to it. here we are over at the swinging pendulum. Now, you can see we've got pretty good coverage. I didn't do in here because of the rotation of those pins, and some of it's in here, but that'll probably make it a little bit difficult to get those bolts coming through the back side of the axle. But the reason I was telling you I'm painting this by hand is if you look back here, it's very, very difficult to get that when you're shooting, and I just feel like I get a better job if I do these manually rather than with the spray brush or sprayer. You know what I mean, the paint gun. The pss, pss. So she's nice and shiny. This will dull down a little bit to a semi-gloss finish, and then we'll probably end up having to clean this up a little bit in here for that new seal to sit in there, but we'll just let it dry first. But you can see that levels out pretty well. It's meant to be hand brushed on, but if you want, fellers, you can spray 415, and you can spray chassis saver. Now 415 says in their instructions to only use their special sauce with their paint, but I'm going to tell you what, I've painted a lot of stuff with 415 and chassis saver. It's basically the same stuff. Thin it down with xylene, but don't go more than 5%, or it'll come on there like a thin film and it'll start to peel off in sheets and it looks like crap, and then you'll really be hating life because only some of it will come off. So the next thing we've got to do is hop out to the old mean machine here, and we're going to snap on a new brake line at the union there at the T on the axle, and we've also got to put in a new soft line, so everything's good to go. The other line looked fantastic, but somebody clipped off the passenger side rear. So let's take you over there and I'll show you that. Okay, so we're underneath the car here, and you can hopefully see that this fitting is all boogered up. So we're just going to take and needle scale that. This is the side we need to work on, but it's better to be over here. So turn your headphones down. Break the line off, and I'm also going to have to go grab a wrench. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do here without burning up the camera is laying all the leaves and dirt, and I'll eventually get to this. So I'm going to heat this up, and then we're going to hit it with CRC freeze off. Heat it up, hit it with this until we crack this line free from the union here. The idea is that we don't twist the line off, but this is more to show you guys. I don't care if we do twist the line off because we're replacing it, but this is just to show you how I do it. Bubbling juice. We'll do the same thing with the soft line. Oh my gosh. But you got to be careful with the soft lines if they're still pressurized, because I've had them burst. I mean, I don't think it's really going to hurt you, but you probably ought to have eye protection on if you're going to do it. Leaning against the pumpkin here because this is more awkward than a first date. Okay, and we got to be careful down here too because I got a crap load of leaves down here. Now this is going to smoke like crazy, but it actually didn't smoke as bad as I thought. That's
give her a shot. Oh, first try. Wow. See, these lines are in fantastic shape. It's a shame that somebody cut them. I mean, there's barely any rust on those lines at all. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this line in place. I'm just going to crack it free. And then what we'll do is we'll find us a line that's kind of the right length. I may have to cut and flare the end, but we'll get this replaced and kind of bend it to match. Okay, now as I give my fingerprints the Men in Black treatment, we'll pop that free here so you can see it spins nice and free. Sometimes you got to do that 3-4 times, but I've never ever had that fail, and I've done it on about 100 cars now. So I'm going to pop in this new brake line, and then I'll bring you back when I got that in. So while I'm back here, I'm going to give this wheel cylinder back here a little shot of Grandma's cough syrup and let that thing baste.
Okay, well, we're just batting 1,000 here. This axle shaft, the race was coming out, and that bearing looks pretty dirty. I had 3/8 of an inch play in that, and ended up just yoinking that race right out of there. So it doesn't look like it's been spinning in the housing here, but this looks like another seal here. It's probably your inner axle seal. So I need to look and see if we've got those in our parts. But this is another snag. And then additionally, O'Reilly's couldn't turn our brake drums, so I had to call in a favor from a friend, and he says he thinks he can turn them. So that's going to delay us a few more days. You know, just good news all around. So did get the brake line bent up, and we're going to go ahead and flare that. It turned out pretty good. I think you can see pretty good in there. We got pretty good light. So I guess I better pull my bender out of there before I lose it to the ages. Oh, we're stuck. Godfrey, look at that. Can you see that? Man, that is evil. That'll rip you right open. Okay, so what we've got here, so directions right here say basically you got to have your backing plate on, and then you've got to have everything installed, pull on the axle shaft, and you're going to get the end play of both together. And they prefer the lower limit of 3/1000s, not 3/8 of an inch. So this race coming all the way out of here is a real problem. I don't know exactly how that happened, but that's not a good thing. So it's hard to tell if that's been spinning in there. I don't think it has, but I'm tempted to put a little bit of blue Loctite in there just so it can't do it again. Anyway, brake line's all cut and flared, and tested with the backing plate. Got the clamps bent, looks good. I'll bring you back when I've got that installed. Well, rabbit hole keeps getting deeper. Look at that race. There's no way I'm using that. The rest of that race looks really good. You can see where the roller sat for, you know, umpteen thousand years, but boy, those rollers in there do not look good. I mean, there's some schmutz on them, of course, but if you look at that, they're stained, and on this side you can see, I don't know. I think I'm going to order a set for both sides and just be done with it, and then probably those inner seals. So we're going to shut her down until I can get those parts. So I guess I'll go and cut some glass for his other car, and I did get these threads chased on here. Oop, and I dropped them in the dirt. Anyway, that should be fine, and I did find one other brake pin. So we are making progress, albeit slow. Well, you can see we're into it now. These old seals don't want to come out with the seal puller, so I'm having to burn her at the stake. But they'll come out, we'll get it. You can see that's lubricating around there now. The bottom with the old oil, so let's give her a tug with the old seal puller. And and see what we can do here. Hopefully it doesn't pop out and hit me in the face. I'm really trying not to bounce the camera around, but this is a double lip seal. Man, what a pain in the butt. Oh my gosh, we're just punching holes in here so it's razor sharp when it comes out. That's what we're doing. Oh, well, it tore. That's got to be progress, right? Oh, jeez. I'm afraid this is going to need 2 hands and maybe 2 feet. Yeah, I'll bring you back when I have the seal out. But you can see how fun this whole car's been. I mean, just look at that. What a mess. But got our new seals right here. Pop that out and show it to you real quick. Trying to keep you guys from getting seasick, but that's our brand new seal. Kind of a strange seal. It's double lipped, but it's not a double seal lip, it's just double metal lipped. I don't know what you'd call that kind of a seal, but anywho, let's get this thing yoinked out of here and try and get this rebuilt before the rain. So I got a minivan waiting over here to have a new power steering rack put in. Now I'm dreading that. Well, got that old seal out and the new one pushed in. That is what's left of the old seal. This thing has not seen the light of day since this car was built, I'm sure. This thing was an absolute pain to get out, but you can see we got her out in many, many, many pieces. I don't know if this little piece right here is leather. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it is. Look right there. That's a leather seal. So this thing is ancient. But we got her out. So now it's on to getting the new bearing pressed on, which I'm going to probably have to make an adapter for on the lathe. And then lastly, tapping the race in with the axle shaft in place. So more fun to come, and then we can finally start assembling the brakes. That's assuming I have all the parts. Okay guys, I'm hand holding this with no gimbal, so I apologize if there's mic noise. I wanted to get you a better close-up of this. So I actually had to take out my press plate altogether, and of course now somebody's calling me. Okay, we're going to try this again. As soon as I start recording, I got a phone call from AutoZone telling me the parts I canceled are here. Guess they didn't get the memo. So I've got this set up in the press, and this took all of the throw in the press that I've got, and then some. I'm supposed to have these pins through here in these holes, and I'm actually resting on the angle iron at the bottom, which won't hurt it, but you know, it's not ideal if you're pressing hard, but this is very light press fit. So here we go. Apologize for any mic noise, because I'm hand holding this. And I'm paying more attention to not having something shoot off at my face here. So let's just
watch this and make sure she goes down to the shoulder. Once again, I'm pressing on the inner part of the bearing, not the cage. She's going down pretty nicely, just a, you know, medium press fit. This is great. So, cleaned up this axle shaft, got all the grease off of it, which was extremely nasty. And we're gonna go ahead and change the oil in the differential. I won't show you guys that unless it's really interesting, but I think that we're gonna cut it off when I get the brakes on. Okay, so I'm just watching for this to bottom out underneath here. Might be a little hard for you guys to see. And I'm gonna call it right there. So now we're gonna go put this into the axle, and we'll hit the race next, and then we can finally put the backing plate back on, check our end plate. So just give you a little overview of the axle shaft, how much cleaner that thing is. Sprays all these splines out, and you can see this is in pretty good shape. One thing I did notice is where that seal had been running, there's a ridge. So I tried to set that seal out just a little farther so that it wouldn't run in that ridge and leak. We'll see how it works. But you always want to lubricate your seal lips too, so that they don't run dry right off the bat. Okay, so I'm going to try and use a couple of pieces of Delrin here to tap this bearing on, or race on, excuse me. Okay, so I don't want to smash on this with a hammer, and I haven't got a socket deep enough that'll really do any good. And I probably do that if I had a bigger socket, but what I'm going to do is put this piece of Delrin on here and hope it doesn't go over the race. And then that on there, piece of aluminum, and then smack it with a hammer. So actually, let's just try this with a mallet real quick, because I'm lazy and I left my hammer over on the other end of the shop. Let's see what's going on here. And a great piece of bronze. You might notice our piece of bronze looks a little different. It got stuck over the end of that sucker, and I couldn't get it off. I tested that all the way down there, clear past where the bearing sits, and it was fine until I pressed it on, and then it got stuck. So I had to turn that off on the lathe and turn the shoulder and then tap it out of there. So just, you know, par for the course today. This whole job has just been real fun. I don't know why I can't have a socket or a piece of pipe that's this big. It goes all the way down over here, but I don't. I suppose we could try it like this. The problem is this keeps trying to like slip over it. And if I turn this around, then it just jams in the Delrin. Sounds like a Led Zeppelin song or something. Jams in the Delrin. Okay, well that is not working. See what I mean? The jams in the Delrin. Led Zeppelin 27. Okay, so this isn't ideal, but using this piece of square pipe, and then this is flipping like rust and junk inside there, so I cleaned all that out, and I'm going to put this paper towel over as kind of a shield. We'll see how that works, but it is knocking it in nicely. So try and get this with this piece of aluminum and hit it evenly. You know, this is like a three-handed job here. This is very awkward. Okay. So gonna make sure we've got this set up right, because we don't want the wheel to just come wandering off while he's headed down the highway. That happened to my cousin's stepbrother, and that was a little spooky. Probably shouldn't be tagging the edge of that bearing with that. Now that's more like it. It's all right. Now, find the hole in there, we'll be in good shape. And also, we can't forget to hook up our brake line to our wheel cylinder here. I hate this gravel driveway. You see how much dust that stirs up? That's from one day. Just gets everything filthy. I probably shouldn't have left this outside, but I was just too dang tired to clean up, and I was working till 9:30 last night, so just didn't feel like coming out here and cleaning up tools. So, where did I put my hardware? Oh, and of course, I do not have my compression washers. I don't know, guys, what do you think? Is that compression washer smoked or still serviceable? Throw that sucker in the garbage. These look terrible too. I don't really want to use those. So what I'll do right now is I'll just put these nuts back on here to check our end play without them, maybe. Because these nuts are garbage too. I'm gonna have to get some more of those. I should have some in my hardware store in here, because this is where this came from. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'll try and cut some of this out if it's boring. I'm not going to go nuts on this backing plate. We'll just set her for 2. Okay, so we got our dial indicator set up here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but zeroed out. So I'm going to pull on it with this pry bar, the crowbar, against that axle nut, and I just screwed it up. So let me just pin this here real quick. Get our settings back where I had them. Just try and measure this, I dare you. Okay, well I think we're good. That's 3 thousandths right there, so that's where we're supposed to be. And so we don't need to worry about that too much. So now we can go ahead and start building this rear end up here. And this is getting easier and easier to turn. So that's good. I think that's loosening up a bit. We should be in good shape here. The only thing is we got to solve this issue with these bolts. So let's go ahead and get these taken off. We'll figure out what we're going to do about that. Get back. That doesn't seem... Houston, we've got a problem. Let's just see if it was just the nut. That sucker was just spinning on there. And I'm afraid I might have to substitute these. Yeah, it tightened down, but I have a lot of confidence in that. Alright guys, before the battery dies, here's what we got to do for the brakes. I've got these eccentric pins. I found I had some longer ones. They're the exact same, they're just a little longer, but I had to go down and get this gigantic die to thread these down a little bit. So I'm just going to run this on here. You can see that fits pretty good. And then I didn't have a handle this big, and it probably would have been super expensive, so I'm going to run it on there with a crescent wrench, but just apparently not that one, because that one's obviously a little too small. Can't speak today, running on very little sleep and getting up at 4 every day this week, so just going to try this on here a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see that. My battery's almost dead on the GoPro, so probably going to have to charge that, switch angles, and show you. So we're just going to thread this down, and then I'm going to cut off the extra threads, and then I'll drill this through for the cotter pin, and we should be set for those brakes, and I can go ahead and finally, after about 3 months of working on these brakes, get everything set up on that backing plate. Okay, and now this is going to try and rotate in the vise. You can't get a hold of this very well. You can't hold this with a wrench, unless it was a crescent or something, because it's just got that flat on there. So that's why I'm doing it this way. It just doesn't seem to hold the vise very good no matter what you do. I really hope you guys can see on these angles. I've only got one GoPro, and it's a older Hero 5. You know, I don't have the fanciest equipment, but I prefer to invest money in my shop rather than in cameras and microphones and everything. So, I was expecting grade 8 steel, but that doesn't feel like grade 8. But we're still going to go get some cutting oil. I just wanted to get it kind of biting in there to feel how it was. So, stand by. Okay, Grandpa's old World War II oil can here. We're going to put some sauce on here. Try and get her in the threads and let it percolate down slowly. This is cutting oil. You can use other things like PB Blaster's got some sulfur in it too, I believe. And then don't use like engine oil, that doesn't really work well. And if you're not using oil, it's going to dull your drill bits or your taps or your dies. So what I'm going to do is go and get that other bolt, and I will compare the length on it, because I know that I've got a short one that's a little bit damaged, and I think it'd actually be easier to just thread the two good ones that I've got and cut them and chamfer them in the lathe, especially considering how easily this is cutting. Break your chip there, it's cutting a good chip. So these definitely are not grade 8, but they're harder than the grade 5. So let's see where we're at here. And I think this is a really good solution for this. Each one of these pins is $55 plus shipping. So a customer about had a heart attack when I told him that. I said, well, I think I've got some used ones that we could work with. So he wanted to do that, and I don't blame him. 55 bucks a piece on these is highway robbery. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but I'll just take this out of the vise. Maybe. That doesn't hit me in the nuts first. So you can see this is an original one. I just didn't want to use it because it's a little chewed up in there. Now I can put a little bit of weld in there, you know, sandblast this, clean it up, put some weld in, turn that down on the lathe, blah, blah, blah. I think this is quicker, and these are in much better shape. But if you see, that eccentric cam on there is the same, and the threads are the same, all that jazz. The only difference is the length. So I'm showing you off camera here, off to the side. I hope you can see that. I've got it marked on here, but I don't know how well that's showing up on camera. So it looks like that mark is pretty accurate. So let's go ahead and do the right thing as somebody might say. And we'll turn this so that we can actually see our mark. Ow! God, that vise just bit me. Okay. All right. Let me pull my skin off here, and we'll get back to it. Just tearing my hands up this week. Sliced my finger open the other day. Feels pretty good. Banging my hands on everything, ripping them open. It sounds like we've got a gigantic bumblebee loose out there. Got a guy that comes by every night, and his car backfires and sputters and spits, and we started calling him 10 o'clock Charlie. Comes by at the same time every night. Doesn't seem like his car ever runs any better. He's sure proud of it. We need a little bit more oil. Cover you in oil. Okay, well, the camera died and it's about to die again, but here we have the finished product. I think that turned out really well, despite a few setbacks. Alright, so we finally got all this crap done. Man, a lot of work. I've got to put a clip on here, and this one was in good shape. I just cleaned it up. So these clips are not the most fun to work with, and they tend to be a real pain in the butt to get off. So now I've misplaced them. That's fine. We'll just use this one and we'll show you how this goes. Alright, of course now the air compressor kicks on. So, I've got to have some oil on this little washer back here. I'm just going to go ahead and flip this around. Get off any of the crusty rusties. I don't know if you can see that. But these just kind of provide a little bit of oil for that brake shoe. So I'm just going to use 3-in-1 oil. Try and get something that'll soak into that felt and stay in there for a good long time. Okay, so that's soaked. We don't want that to drip on the brake shoe, but I'll let that drip for a sec, and then probably put a little coat of it on here. Help us to get this assembled a little easier. Slip that up on there, make sure that felt washer goes on correctly. And then I found out I didn't need to drill the other one. I went and looked at the other side again. It's been a couple of weeks, and turns out it wasn't even a castellated nut. It's just these regular nuts with a lock washer. So I don't know why they decided to do that differently on the back and the front, but that's how it is. So it just goes in there like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the nut on the back of here so I don't have to hold it. And we'll get this brake shoe over the eccentric on here. I've still got to do the other side and then change out that soft line as well. I'll let you guys watch through the end of this side, and then it's just doing the same thing on the other side. Alright, so I've kind of got that started on there. This can be a little frustrating, but just keep working with it. Now I had it through there. I'm going to really make sure that that's all the way through that brake shoe. There we go. See, it should cam that brake shoe. That's what these do. I've got to go back and readjust the front. I totally spaced what I was doing up front, so turn our arrow a little bit here. Actually, let's turn this all the way in for right now. I'm going to leave these on here kind of loose because we've got to adjust these. And I won't show you guys that in this video because this video is probably getting a little long in the tooth. But that's how you do this. And I'll bring you back once I've got the other side on because I've got to go find a clip. All right, so I found this. Took me a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and install this. The way I like to do it is with a set of slip joint pliers. You don't have to do it that way, but these are very soft. So you can just put them on, set it on there, and kind of should snap in there or fall in the dirt. That'd be great too. I'm just going to kind of tap this over. I know you guys are not able to see that, but okay, you can see it's seated all the way in there. And then take your slip joint pliers and expand them out, and then kind of squeeze that clip. And now it's popped free again. Okay, there we go. So, all right, now that's on there. You can see that's not able to come off there. Same deal. A little bit of 3-in-1 oil on that. And then I'm going to check this felt washer over. It's a little crusty. We'll get that stuff off there. You could make these felt washers, but I was lucky enough to find some good ones. These little pieces here, just this, is $5. The price of car parts has gone absolutely berserk. It just is so infuriating because you can't even work on the common, simple stuff without spending a fortune. Can you guys tell I live on a busy highway? I swear, about 10:30 at night, it sounds like the Indianapolis 500 out here. People racing up and down the street, you know, just going crazy. Cops do nothing about it. But if you're a couple roads over where all the businesses are, that's where they run all their speed traps. It's unbelievable. And here we see maybe a speeding ticket a month. And this is a residential. Well, it's mixed use actually, but annoying nonetheless. So speaking of annoying things, I don't know if you guys are in the habit of asking your mechanic for free advice, but I've had a lot of people in this last year want to ask me for free advice. That's great to a point, but you call me up, want free advice, want me to be your manual, and then you don't pay me. That starts to irritate me a little bit. I'm trying to earn a living here, you know, and people don't seem to think they need to pay. Let me know in the comments if you guys have that problem and what you do about it. Because I've raised my rates, and it doesn't seem to affect anybody that way. Certainly makes me more money, not enough, but anyway, I just find that aggravating. Once or twice, you know, somebody really is in desperate, dire need, okay, that's fine. But people calling, doing it all the time, and then saying, oh yeah, you were right, and I went and did the job myself. Man, you know, talk about inconsiderate and I want to piss somebody off, you know. You need to know you're in that desperate need all the time. Buy a manual. You wouldn't go down to the grocery store and ask them to give you your groceries for free now, would you? Okay, this one's being a little stubborn, but it'll go. What I'm trying to do is get that eccentric through the brake shoe itself first. That makes it a little bit easier too. So we'll turn the little arrow towards the inside for right now because that collapses those. Now, the last thing we need to do besides put the drum on is put our spring in the top. So it goes in these holes here. That'll suck these in. Then when you adjust these, they'll be under tension. But you've also got an eccentric here which pushes on the brake shoe. So you're kind of able to do this and get these things so that you've got good toe contact and good heel contact on here, and get these things evened out so they're not hitting too high here or too much of the low area. It's got a good even push. So we have not adjusted any of the brakes. I just threw them back together because I figured I'd come back through and do it all after I bled them, which is a little bit of chasing your tail, but I just wanted to get those wheels back on so the spindles didn't rust. And then it didn't rain or snow. It's supposed to next week. Okay, nut and washer going back on the back here, and these fit really well. All the stuff we built is doing very well. So, if you'll use, just a little bit of skill and think about things before you do them, and not just go pull out your pocketbook, you can actually make a lot of things with just basic tools. So these screws here probably cost me, there's maybe $10 to buy them, and then $12 for the die, and we're good to go rather than $55 each. And they work just fine. They look just like the originals. So that being said, let's get this spring put on, and I'll show you how much fun that is. Okay, so with these back brake shoes, we're going to have a little bit of a problem, and that is that the originals only had a hole somewhere around in this area, and these are kind of drilled, I guess, so they go in any position. So there's no front or back shoes for this car. Now this is an original spring, but if you look on there, yeah, it's still got a little paint on there or whatever, but it's really crusty, and you might get this on there and it might work, but I would bet you money it'll break. So we've got new ones, but these are the longest ones they sell for this car, and look how much shorter they are. And additionally, I don't know why, but look at this one. You see a problem here, folks? Turn it this way, maybe you can see it better. We've got one hook end going up and one going down, so we're going to end up having to put one in and then spin and rotate it, which is just going to complicate things. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do about that, but let's try it on camera. What could go wrong? And I've got this brake tool. This is honestly one of the most useful tools for doing this. If you're doing springs, I see people use screwdrivers, vice grips, whatever. I've used all that stuff, but this brake hook is probably the most useful. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this underneath here and just see if I can pre-rotate. And it's already going well. And holy crap, I'm going to put my sunglasses on or something. Protect my eyeballs. Because if I don't do this now, I'll just have to deal with this later. Guys. See if I can get that brake shoe in a little. Okay, we got it. Doing. So, that hurt. But it's on. and it shouldn't affect it too much. It's just the way they bend them, but it can complicate installation. So there you go, and you can see now I'll rotate those. It's kind of doing a eccentric motion. And then if I were to turn these adjusters here, I know you can't see the cam on here, but it sits behind, kind of pushes right about here. Then you can adjust the tops out. So, and then you obviously have to tighten the lock nuts on the back of these when you're done. But this is one side rebuilt. Now we have to do everything like this to the other side. And of course we have to put in a bearing and all that crap too. And that one's going to be a little more difficult to pull because it's not already halfway out of the axle. And you're not supposed to yank on them with a slide hammer, a cat's paw, or anything of that nature. You're supposed to have a special puller, and it goes over here and it pulls on the axle shaft slowly and pulls it out. So we're going to see what we got to do about that next. Can I just tell you guys how much I hate doing outros and how I can never seem to speak right on camera? I must be thinking too much. Regardless, we did do a good job on this. It should work right, it's all functional, and it's back to the way it should have been from the factory, if not even a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and go do the same thing on the other side and try and get this done before all the storms roll in, as well as maybe pull the engine on the Plymouth. I haven't decided, but that might depend on if the forklift cooperates as well. So if you guys like this content, go ahead and stab that thumbs up button. It really helps out the channel, helps me to know what you guys want to see and the videos that are trending so I can create more of them for you. We're doing really good on this channel, getting more subscribers all the time. I appreciate every single one of you. Like, comment, subscribe. This is Reaper signing off on another one.